Most founders I speak to have the same problem with their pipeline. They've got deals in it that have been sitting there for months, deals that they believe in, deals that they keep telling themselves are going to close, and they don't. And the problem isn't with the deals, it's that there was never a reliable way to know whether or not the deal was actually real in the first place. And that's what a qualification framework is there to fix. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that means and walk you through one of the ways that we use MEDDIC with one of our clients. Okay, first, let's be clear about what qualification actually is. So qualification is not asking someone if they're interested in your product. It's not getting a positive response from a cold email. It's not having a good first call. It's not someone saying, oh, this looks interesting, send me more information. It's none of those things. All those things feel good in the moment, but none of them tell you whether or not the deal is actually real. Real qualification is a structured way of assessing every opportunity in your pipeline against a consistent set of criteria. And it answers one question. Is this genuinely worth spending your time and attention on or not? And without it, your pipeline's not a pipeline. It's just a list of conversations that you're hoping is going to turn into money, and hope is not a sales strategy. So let's get rid of that straight away. So here's why most founder-led businesses don't have a qualification framework. When you're the one closing all the deals, you kind of develop this gut feel for which ones are real. You've been through enough conversations and you get a sense of what's moving and what isn't. And for a while, that instinct actually works quite well. But the problem comes when you try and hand that over to somebody else, like someone that you've hired. But you can't teach gut feel. You can't inspect it. You can't use it to build a forecast. You can't use it to coach a new hire that you've just brought into the team to do something differently. Gut feel isn't a talent, and talent doesn't really transfer. A qualification framework replaces gut feel with something that can be taught, applied consistently, and used to diagnose every single deal in your pipeline. It's not just the ones that you're working on personally. And that's the shift from a founder-dependent sales operation into a system that runs without you. So the framework that we use, and the one that I'd recommend to any B2B founder, is called MEDDIC. It was developed by Jack Napoli and Dick Dunkel at PTC in the late 90s and was later written about extensively by John McMahon in his book, The Qualified Sales Leader. And it's been used by some of the fastest growing enterprise companies in the world to apply almost like a universal standard to B2B sales. So MEDDIC stands for 6 things: metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, identify pain, and champion. Now, each one is a question you need to be able to answer about every active deal in your pipeline. If you can't answer them, then the deal isn't qualified and it's just optimistic. So let me walk through each one. So M is for metrics. Metrics means you can put a number on the value of solving this problem. So this is the financial case for the deal. What's the problem actually costing the business in lost revenue, wasted time, missed targets, excessive headcount, and what's the measurable value of them fixing it? And when you can answer this in the buyer's own numbers, you stop selling on faith and you start selling on return on investment. The conversation shifts from, can we afford to do this, to we can't afford not to do this. And if you can't quantify the value, you're asking the buyer to just trust you. And that's much, much harder to close. So E stands for economic buyer. And the economic buyer is the person who controls the budget and can say yes without asking anybody else. So this is not always the most senior person in the room. It's not always the person you've been speaking to. It's the person with discretionary spend, the one whose signature makes all deals happen. And most B2B sales stall because the salesperson's been selling to the wrong person, like a friendly contact who they like, but actually can't buy the product. If you haven't spoken to the economic buyer, your deal is not qualified, just full stop. So D is for decision criteria. And decision criteria are the requirements that the buyer will use to choose a specific solution. Some are obvious, like price, features, integration with existing tools, and others are less visible. Trust in the vendor, peer recommendations, how easy the solution is to explain to the board. The founders and the sales teams who win consistently don't just respond to decision criteria, they shape them. They get into the conversation early enough to make sure that the things that they're best at are at the top of that evaluation list. And if you find out the decision criteria when the RFP arrives on your desk, then it's pretty much already too late. So D stands for decision process. And the decision process means, how will this buyer actually make a buying decision? What are the steps? Who gets involved at each stage? Are there procurement or legal hurdles? Is there a sign-off threshold that triggers a committee review? Most founders find out the decision process at the final stages of a deal, and that's usually when the deal stalls. Procurement gets involved, legal wants to change things, and the original timeline that you have slips. So map the decision-making process early. Ask your contact directly, can you walk me through how business contracts get signed here? That one question asked in week 2 instead of week 12 changes everything. I is for identify pain. This is the business problem your solution solves and why fixing it matters right now. Not every business with a problem is a buyer. The ones who buy are the ones where the problem is urgent, it's visible, and it's costly enough to justify action. So 2 things matter here. First, the pain has to be real and quantified, not a vague dissatisfaction, but specific and measurable. Second, there has to be a compelling event, something that's changed recently and made solving this a problem now rather than in 6 months' time. No pain, no urgency. No urgency, no deal. C stands for champion. So a champion is someone inside the target business who's got influence and has personal pain tied to the problem and will sell for you internally when you're not in the room. Now, this is the element that most founders get wrong. They make a mistake that a friendly, engaged contact is a champion, but a real champion is a little bit different. They push the deal forward when it stalls. They make the case to the economic buyer. They give you inside information about what's happening inside the business. So the test is simple. Is this person actively selling for you when you're not on the call? If not, you haven't got a champion, you've just got a warm contact. And building a real champion is actually one of the highest leverage things that you can do in B2B sales. And it almost never happens without deliberate, intentional effort. So here's how to put MEDDIC to work immediately for your organization. Take your top 5 active deals and for each one, score yourself against the 6 elements and be honest. Not we've discussed metrics, but I can state the specific financial value that the buyer has agreed that this solution will deliver. And you'll find gaps, you always do. And those gaps will tell you exactly what needs to happen in order to move the deal forward to the next step. That's the real value of a qualification framework, not just knowing which deals are strong, but actually knowing exactly what's missing in the ones that aren't strong, and then having a clear action plan about how to fix it. And then over time, run this across every single deal in your pipeline, track it in your CRM, use it in your weekly deal reviews, and make it the standard by which you assess every single opportunity. And when that happens, forecasting stops being guesswork, you stop carrying dead deals for months, and you stop being surprised when something that you were counting on just doesn't close. So the last step is close. MEDDIC is not a complicated system. It's 6 questions that you need to be able to answer about every single deal that you're working. But most founder-led businesses have never applied it consistently, and that one gap, no qualification discipline, is responsible for more missed targets, more wasted sales, and more inconsistent pipeline than almost anything else. Fix the qualification, fix the forecast, and then fix the pipeline. If you want to see how we apply MEDDIC inside a full revenue without you system for B2B tech founders, then there's a link below. Or email me directly, I reply to every single one. Speak to you soon.